When I'm talking to another professional taper, there's several ways that are going to apply their tapes, whether it's to the angles or to the flats. But there are several methods. One is with a bazooka. It's a long cylinder that holds your mud, that puts your tape on the wall as it loads the mud onto the tape. There's a banjo, which is a similar kind of a system. There's what they call a super taper that just goes into your bucket and you pull it out by hand and it loads mud onto your tape as you're pulling it. We just set those in. Sometimes you have to pull the tape down a little, sometimes you have to push it in a little when you're using a bazooka or something like that. When you're doing it by hand, you take the time to fold it in there. You still push or adjust, but you make sure that all three of your tapes come into that touch inside of that corner. Some guys just use straight knife, but that's very few. This is 90% of the time you're going to be grabbing a roller and pressing. You got to be careful as you're rolling that you don't push your tape one way or the other. It's a good thing to start in the middle, go one direction lightly, and then back. This is the general look you're going to get, the result. So normally you take in your and just, usually you leave the mud in the corner so you got something to work with for cleaning out your corner. It all has to be done by hand, no matter what system you're using. So here, I'm going to make sure these tapes are overlapping properly. Yeah. So
recovery didn't take you very long. Way to straighten them out. Yeah.
That's it cleaned out, but that all has to be coated. And you can only coat at the most 2 of these angles at the same time. This, if you tried here to coat all 3 angles, you just won't be able to get a neat enough job out of it. It's important that you literally bury those tapes. There's lots of different ways of doing things. Most guys, once they've thrown their tapes, butted them tight, straightened out that 3-way, are going to give it the first coat at that point. But like I say, you can only coat 2 sides of that angle at one time. No matter what method you're using, you don't have to have that tape butt right into your corner, which is already starting to save you time in how you place your tapes, no matter what system you use. That's good enough. Okay, the angles are run. You can see they were quicker because I don't have to butt right into that 3-way. I'm going to use a 6-inch knife, place our mud now, get ready for a 3-way. Take your mud. Just make sure it's fairly thin, but you want to be able to control it in your pan. But you still need it thin enough behind your 3-way. So always remember, putting mud on this flap here is what's going to glue this to the back of the 3-way here. So it's going to make the seal. So when you place that in, you press it in quickly, make sure it's all in there tight, and then just wipe up that. As you can see, that's the first coat in there. We were able to skim out the edge of the 3-way. Yeah, the reason we have a flap in here for this to be able to adjust like this is the 3-way is rarely going to be perfectly squared out. So sometimes you need to be able to adjust the variation this way. When that happens, then you just have a slight area here you have to fill with some mud. That's it. This is made out of 2 different layers of very particular type of paper, so that when you wipe this 3-way in, this edge tapers down below this edge so that you can fill the difference, skim in the difference there, which blends it directly into your wall. You never have to go inside of this 3-way. Only thing is to press this one edge down to make sure that it's laying tight against the other side. Our next step here is going to be to sand and coat out the angles in the 3-ways again. But the 3-way here is already all dry. Over here, there's still a lot of moisture left in there. I'm going to try to coat it anyhow, but there's a lot of moisture in there because there's just way more volume of mud that's required for filling out the traditional 3-way. Well, when you have 3 tapes overlapping, then you have to build up the mud to bury them. It just creates a lot more mud and a lot longer drying time for your 3-way. There's been a number of times in a house when we were going in ready to pull our angles again and coat them again that we weren't able to because the 3-ways just can take too long to dry. So we had to move on to other things and come back to that stage. So to sand these out, there's a couple of methods. You can use a pole sander, but if you don't have one, you can grab a sponge. That works well. This is just a quick rough sand in between each layer of mud that you have to apply. You want to sand out ridges and any excess little chips and mud that are in there. Here's these ridge here. I just want to take that ridge off. Now when you're sanding out the 3-way here, because it's just a quick brush, you don't have to go deep into the angle. So when you're sanding out this one here, you got to go in deep into that angle. So we're going to quickly recoat these angles. There's a number of ways of doing it. One is with a box. You pump mud into the box. It has a head on it that you press in, keep even, and you can coat those angles. There's a system where you pull mud up in a tube, put the head into the angle, and you can put your mud in there and then flush over top of it. I'll do it like how do-it-yourselfer kind of guy would do it. And we'll just use a knife and mud here to apply it. That's just roughly putting the mud in. You can use this style of a flesher. So we're just going to use Can-Am's head here. That's flushed out for now. This 3-way, finish coating it. This one here, just a quick skimming of the angle. I don't know if it shows up on film, but you can see the bevel of it is now filled, and you retain the beauty of all those sharp angles without having to go directly into the center. This 3-way here, we should be able to just skim the top from the previous coat. And this one here, you're going to have to build up pretty good. This one's ready to sand. It's perfect. Here, it would require another coat because it's still gouging just a bit. Still needs some rough sanding and some filling. That should do it. All right, both 3-ways are completed now, so we're going to just sand them out. And that's the final step to it. So we'll just quickly take off what we need. That 3-way is complete. Okay, this is our traditional 3-way that we're going to sand out now. Let's take up that edge. Okay. The traditional three-way is sanded out now as well.
Thank you.
When you're dealing with a paper tape, you have to cover it completely because the surface itself is not paintable. The 3-way paper is paintable. You do not have to cover it with mud. That's part of what makes it so quick to work with and sand out, is you don't have to go deep into it. You just are sanding along the edge that you had to skim. There's so much time consumed in doing 3-ways by the professional. If you take a stopwatch and measure how long you're taking, it's 25% of the work in a house. I want them to understand about the 3-way. One, your apprentice can now do a 3-way as fast or faster than you can. This is one of the more difficult things in drywall for even a journeyman to do, and that's that 3-way. This 3-way insert makes it so that any homeowner, any painter wanting to impress his clients can make the perfect 3-way. It takes nothing to coat it. You just skim that edge. You can see this edge over here and the other one has been skimmed twice. That's adequate for your first coat.